I still remember the exact tone in my mom's voice when she said it. Cold, clipped, final. Don't come for Christmas. It wasn't a suggestion, it was an order. She didn't yell. She didn't even sound angry. She just sounded done. We'll pretend we don't know you, she added, like that was supposed to hurt more than being disinvited. And in a twisted way, it did. In the background, I heard my brother laughing. Not the kind of laugh where you're trying to lighten the mood. No, this was full-throated amusement. He was delighted to hear me getting cut out. Like it was a long-time fantasy finally playing out. I didn't argue. Didn't ask for clarification. I just said, okay, and hung up. And then I deleted the family group chat. A little background. I'm the oldest. 33, single, and, according to them, a massive disappointment. My brother Nate, 2 years younger, is the golden child. Mom's favorite. Always has been. Everything he does is charming, ambitious, just trying his best. Meanwhile, if I breathe in the wrong direction, I'm ungrateful, moody, or selfish. We used to be close when we were younger. Then our dad died when we were kids, and something in my mom just broke. She funneled everything into Nate. I was left to raise myself emotionally. When I got a scholarship and left town at 18, she called it abandoning the family. I guess I never fully came back from that in her eyes. The Christmas before this one had ended in disaster. Nate's girlfriend had just joined us for the first time. Talia, a pretty girl with a sharp tongue and a perfectly Instagrammable life. She smiled a lot, but she watched people like she was trying to figure out their blood type from across the room. At dinner, she asked how Nate and I got along growing up. Before I could say anything, he cut in with, he was always the weird one. Had all these secrets. He even ran away for a while. Didn't tell anyone where he was going. It was a dig. A reference to the summer I couch surfed for 2 months after getting into a fight with my mom. I didn't run away. I just didn't want to sleep in a house where I was constantly reminded that I wasn't welcome. That night, I went back to my hotel early. And apparently, Nate spun the rest of the narrative in my absence. Fast forward to this Christmas. I got the call a week before the 25th. Don't come. We'll pretend we don't know you. We don't want you here. My brother, laughing in the background like it was a sitcom, and I was the punchline. I stayed away. Sat at home with my dog, drank hot chocolate, and watched Die Hard. It sucked, but at least I wasn't in a house full of fake smiles and sharp-tongued jabs wrapped in tinsel. Then 5 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a DM on Instagram, from a name I didn't recognize. The message? Is this you in this photo? Because I think you're the guy from the box. My heart dropped, because I knew exactly what photo she meant. When I tapped the message and the photo loaded, my stomach did a full somersault. There I was, 17 years old, standing in front of a beat-up blue Pontiac in a dusty driveway, shirtless, grinning, and holding up a skateboard like a trophy. I hadn't seen that photo in years. It was from one of the few good summers the first had as a teen, before everything with my family went off the rails. But it wasn't the photo that freaked me out. It was the fact that someone I didn't know had it, and was calling it the guy from the box. What box? I messaged her back. Where did you get this? She responded almost instantly. It was in a shoebox in Nate's closet. Talia found it after he asked her to clean out his stuff because they're moving in together. Talia. Of course. My brother's girlfriend had found it. And now she was messaging me. I sat there, heart pounding, trying to understand how that photo ended up in Nate's things. That picture had been in my stuff. I took it with me when I left for college. It was part of a little photo album I carried in a duffel bag everywhere for years. It was personal. I thought I'd lost it years ago. I didn't even notice when it went missing. I texted Talia directly. Why are you going through my stuff? She replied with a voice note. Her voice was cool, calm, and deliberate. Not a trace of apology in it. Your stuff? Oh no, sweetie. This box was Nate's. Under his bed. Labeled Summer Files. There are more photos in it. And letters. Notes. Some drawings. All of them. Of you. I stared at the screen. Wait. Letters? Drawings? What the hell? I replied. Send me a photo of the box. Right now. She did. And it was worse than I could have imagined. It was a plain, worn shoebox, the kind you get from Payless or Target. But scrawled in black Sharpie across the top were the words. J. Summer 2008. Private. J as in me. That's what my mom always called me. J. Never by my full name. Nate used to call me that too, when we were kids. Inside the box were photos. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. Drawings of my car. My guitar. My dog, Bixby. Notes written in Nate's chicken scratch. I hate how he makes Mom mad. But I miss him when he's gone. And then others that didn't make sense at all. What if he never forgives me? I shouldn't have said it. It was an accident. My blood went cold. There were at least 30 pieces of paper in the photo she sent. And from what I could tell, every single one had something to do with me. Nate hadn't just kept stuff. He'd been documenting me and hiding it for over a decade. Talia called me. I think we need to talk, she said, flatly. I agreed. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our places the next morning. She walked in wearing sunglasses and no makeup. No smile. No pretense. She sat down and placed the shoebox on the table between us like it was evidence in a criminal trial. You need to explain this, she said, because your brother never mentioned any of this. And I'm starting to think I'm sleeping next to a complete stranger. I opened the box. One by one, I pulled out the scraps of our past. Nate's notes. Pictures of us at the lake. My acceptance letter to college, the original, not the copy I thought I'd kept. Even a poem I wrote in 11th grade that I shared once, with Nate after he begged me to show him something I wrote. What was all this doing in a box in his room? I didn't have answers. But as I kept reading, one thing became clear: Nate was hiding something. And I wasn't the only one who knew it anymore. I looked up at Talia. She looked at me like she was trying to solve a murder case. Do you remember anything happening that summer? She asked. I froze. The summer of 2008. I remember flashes. Nate getting suspended. My mom screaming. A family friend showing up drunk and never coming back. And me, waking up one night with blood on my shirt and no idea why. I'd always written it off as teenage chaos. I was going through a lot. My memory of that year was foggy at best. But now... Talia leaned in. Nate said you ruined everything that summer. That you hurt someone. That he protected you. I blinked. What? He says he's the reason your life didn't fall apart. That he took the fall for something you did. I stared at her. Because that wasn't true. At least, I thought it wasn't. She pushed a folded paper across the table. One sentence. Written in Nate's writing. He doesn't remember what happened. He never will. That's the only way I can keep him safe. I stared at the note in silence for a long time. Talia didn't say a word, just watched my face like she was waiting for something to crack. Something to click. And then it did. A flash. Just a flicker of a memory. A smell, sunscreen, and charcoal. Laughter that wasn't friendly. The sound of glass breaking. Someone yelling my name in a panic. I shook my head like it would make the fog clear. It didn't. Talia, I said quietly, can I keep this box for a bit? She hesitated. I want to keep a few of the letters. I think they were written for me. My eyes narrowed. What? She pulled out 3 folded papers. He gave me these when we first started dating. He told me they were journal entries he wrote to himself when he was younger. Said it was just a therapy thing. She handed one to me. It was dated July 2008. Addressed to me. I should have told him. I should have said something. But if I tell him, he'll never speak to me again. I'm the reason it happened. It was me. I looked up at her slowly. What did he say happened? She rubbed her temple. Nothing specific. Just that someone got hurt. A neighbor kid. Something to do with your car. But he always danced around it. Told me your family doesn't talk about that summer because you almost got charged. He made it sound like he was the hero for covering it up. My jaw clenched. Because that was news to me. The box became an obsession after that. I went through every photo, every note, every little piece of scrap like I was forensics. Trying to connect the dots. What happened that summer? Why were there so many drawings of my car? That old Pontiac was my baby. My first car. I spent a year restoring it. Nate used to beg me to let him drive it. I always said no. Until one night, I said yes. I found a receipt tucked into one of the envelopes. Dated August 2nd, 2008. For a car wash and interior detailing. Paid in cash. The address? 10 miles from our neighborhood. Under it was a note from Nate, crammed into the corner of a Burger King napkin. Got most of it out. Still smells like beer. He was passed out when I got back. I don't think he saw anything. I dropped the napkin like it burned me. Passed out? Smelled like beer? Was he talking about me? I called my old friend Sam. He was the only person who knew me before everything went south. We hadn't talked in years, but he picked up on the second ring. Hey, Jay. Yeah. Hey, listen. I have a weird question. Okay. What do you remember about the summer before I left for college? Anything weird happen? There was a pause. Then, Jesus. I thought you were going to ask me about that eventually. My heart thudded. Wait, what? You really don't remember? Sam, remember what? There was a sigh on the other end of the line. It was your brother, man. Not you. He took your car out one night and, listen, this is just what I heard, but supposedly he hit somebody. A neighbor kid. On a bike. Nothing fatal, but enough to land them in the hospital for weeks. I stopped breathing. Sam kept going. There was a whole thing about whether to call the cops. Your mom freaked out. Said she'd handle it. Then suddenly you got sent away for a while and nobody talked about it again. When I asked Nate about it later, he said you confessed to everything and felt guilty. That you'd blacked out because of the booze. I sank into my couch, hand over my mouth. He finished with, but honestly, I always thought something was off. You never drank like that. Nate did. I hung up and stared at the box again. All this time. All these years. My own mother let me believe I was the reason we didn't talk about that summer. My brother let me carry a guilt I never earned. And I, like an idiot, believed it. Because they wanted me to. That's why she said, we'll pretend we don't know you. That's why he laughed when she said it. Because they didn't want me anywhere near the truth. But the worst part? They almost got away with it. They nearly buried the past in a shoebox under a bed, labeled private, and left it there to rot. I called Talia again. I need a favor, I said. I need you to talk to Nate. Record him. Get him to say anything about that summer. Anything about the car. The kid. Me. She didn't hesitate. Already planned on it. I was stunned. You were. I'm not stupid, Jay. He lied to me too. For years. This might sound harsh, but if your brother's the person I think he is, I don't want to be with him anymore. I just want proof. I was silent. She said, and maybe. I want you to finally have your life back. The next day, she called me. She had the recording. And what Nate said blew everything open. Talia sent the voice recording to me through Signal. No preamble. Just a single message. Play this somewhere private. Embrace yourself. I did. I locked the door, dimmed the lights, and hit play. At first, it was just background noise, clinking glasses, the creak of Nate's old Bev frame. Then his voice. Calm. Carefree. What is this, 60 minutes? Why are you recording me? Talia's voice, steady. I just want to understand you. The real you. No more secrets. He laughed. Actually laughed. Okay, fine. You want a story? How about this? Summer 2008. The night I nearly ruined everything. My blood ran cold. Jay was supposed to be asleep. Mom had just screamed at him, and he took off into the woods with a bottle. I figured he'd be passed out for the night, so I took the keys. You remember that car, right? That sexy piece of junk he loved more than life itself? Yeah, I took it. I was just driving around, trying to impress this girl, Becca. She was older. Had a thing for bad boys. We stopped near the park, and I told her I could get us booze. Left her there and ran into that kid on the bike. He paused. You could hear the swallow in his throat. I wasn't even speeding. Kid just came out of nowhere. I clipped his front tire. He flipped over the hood like something out of a movie. Got up screaming. I panicked. Drove off. And then Mom handled it. That's what she does. She handles things. She found me scrubbing the blood off the hood the next morning, and instead of calling the cops, she said we'd let Jay take the fall. My ears started ringing. He was already half gone. Didn't remember where he was or how he got there. Mom said we could spin it. Say he'd driven drunk. Everyone already thought he was the troubled one. He'd just gotten a black eye from Dad's old friend the week before, remember? Nobody questioned it. My hands were trembling. So yeah, that's what we did. I let him think he was the reason that kid ended up in the hospital. Let him carry it. And he did. Quietly. For years. There was a pause. And then Talia's voice. You never told him? What was the point? He already left. Thought we hated him anyway. Honestly, I figured he'd forget it. He wanted to. And you don't feel guilty? Nate's laugh was low, bitter. I did. For a while. But now? I don't know. He was always the one everyone compared me to. Maybe this was me leveling the playing field. I paused the recording. Sat there in silence. I hadn't noticed the tears until I saw them drip onto the phone screen. He ruined me. He and my mother twisted my memory into a weapon and used it to exile me from the only family I had left. Also, he wouldn't have to face what he did. And now? I had the truth. In his own words. Talia messaged again. So what now? What are you going to do with this? I didn't know. Not yet. But one thing was certain. They weren't going to get away with it. I started with the police. There's no statute of limitations on felony hit and run in our state, especially when there's serious injury involved. I gave them the audio, along with Sam's testimony and the old photos. They were skeptical, but intrigued. Told me they'd look into the original case, especially since the victim, a kid named Eli Ramirez, was apparently still local. Then I contacted Eli, found him on Facebook, sent him a message that probably sounded like spam. "You don't know me, but I think we have a shared history. From when you were 10. He replied in less than an hour. "You mean the hit and run? The one nobody ever figured out? That nearly shattered my spine? Yeah, still have the scars." We met 2 days later, and when I played the recording for him, he cried. Like really cried. He said, "They told me it was a drunk driver. That the guy turned himself in and said he didn't remember anything. The cops let it drop because nobody pressed charges." I clenched my fists. "I never turned myself in," I said. "I didn't even know I was involved." Eli gave a full statement to the police. Talia did too. She even handed over the entire box, with one note scrawled in Sharpie on the top. "Property of Jay, give it back to him." They opened an investigation. Quietly. But word traveled fast in our small town. Especially when 2 officers showed up at my mom's house on a rainy Thursday morning and walked Nate out in handcuffs. You should have seen the look on her face. Pajama robe. Hair wild. Like someone had pulled the floor out from under her perfect little world. The media didn't touch it at first, but it leaked. And once people started putting names to the story, once people realized Nate, Golden Boy Winters might have been behind a decade-old crime that ruined a kid's life, the floodgates burst open. And my mother? Well, she called me. For the first time in 4 years. The call came at 11:47 p.m. Private number. Of course it was her. I debated answering. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 1,000 times. What I'd say, how I'd say it, whether I'd scream or stay cold. In the end, I picked up and didn't say a word. "Jay." Her voice cracked. Not with grief. With control slipping through her fingers. "We need to talk." Still, I said nothing. "I know you're angry. But this isn't how families handle things. You're dragging us through the mud. You're destroying your brother's life." I finally spoke. "You did that. The second you chose to protect him over me." She scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. He was a child. He made a mistake. So was I." Silence. I didn't even know what happened that night until 2 weeks ago. You let me believe I was the one who hit that kid. You let me walk away thinking I was broken. Her voice dropped to that venomous, mother knows best tone. "We protected you. Do you understand that? The media storm. The guilt. The shame. It would have swallowed you whole. We made a choice. A hard one." I gritted my teeth. "No. You made me the villain so your golden boy could stay shiny." Then I hung up. Blocked the number. Not because I couldn't handle more calls. Because she didn't deserve another second of my breath. The fallout came fast. Nate was charged with obstruction, falsifying statements, and felony hit and run. It didn't help that the recording of his confession leaked online. Thank you, mysterious Reddit thread, and started making the rounds on local news. The public turned. His job put him on administrative leave. Talia? She left him immediately. Packed her things while he was being processed. But the final blow? That came from Eli. He filed a civil suit. One that would drag Nate and my mother into court. Not just for the hit and run, but for the cover-up. The day the suit hit the press, I drove out to the cemetery. My dad's headstone was there. Clean. Quiet. The only place I ever felt like I could speak freely. I sat down in the grass and whispered, "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't know if I did the right thing, but I finally told the truth." And then I pulled out a flash drive. It held everything in. The voice recording. Scans of the letters. Photos. Testimonies. The timeline. I buried it. Right next to his grave. Because I wasn't going to carry that weight anymore. Let the earth hold it. Weeks passed. Then months. I started seeing a therapist. I reconnected with Sam. Talia and I, oddly enough, became friends, real ones. Not because of shared trauma, but because she saw through the same lies and refused to play nice. And my mother? She tried to rally the family. Tried to spin the narrative. That I'd ruined Christmas. That I'd gone nuclear over old wounds. That Jay always had a flair for drama. But not everyone bought it this time. Because this time, I had the receipts. And the truth has a funny way of shaking even the most stubborn branches off the family tree. The last message I got from Nate came a week before his court date. "You always wanted to be the victim. Congrats. You finally got what you wanted. I didn't respond. Because I didn't get what I wanted. I got what I needed. The truth. Peace. And distance. It's been 10 months. Nate took a plea deal. He avoided jail but had to pay restitution, lost his job, and moved back in with our mom. Eli got his justice, and he's since launched a nonprofit for hit-and-run victims. He even asked me to help tell his story. As for me, I finally had a Christmas that felt real. A small one. No drama. Just good people, good food, and a snow globe I found at a thrift store that says, "Home is the place where you're loved, not where you're tolerated." Damn right it is.